Well, okay, let's tackle the wage gap thing. So the wage gap has been debunked. There is no wage gap. How much do you make per month? Just curious.
I don't like to share that publicly.
Do you make 5 figures a month?
Let's say that.
Have you ever made 6 figures in a month?
Yes.
Okay, so that puts you in the top 1% of earners in the United States. So I would say that if you've made 6 figures in a month, in that given month, you've out-earned probably 99% of men.
And so in a female-dominated industry.
Also, why is it the case you work in OnlyFans, for example? Why is it do you think we should equalize the gender wage gap in OnlyFans? Because if you're a guy on OnlyFans, men make far less money. There's far less opportunity for men to make money in that realm. So do you think that there should be equal pay in OnlyFans?
Obviously, there is no equal pay in OnlyFans because if there was, then obviously I would say yes. I think that we should equally get a payment. But unfortunately, it is literally so personal and so particular.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that, and all the girls can weigh in on this, for example, women in sports, do you think women in sports should be paid the same as their male counterparts? So for example, like WNBA players, female soccer players, trying to think of other sports. Let's just stick to soccer and basketball.
I would say.
Do you think they should be paid the same as their male counterparts?
The reason I would say that they do not deserve equal pay is solely because of the navigation of a business, which obviously the NBA and WNBA and football leagues or soccer leagues are businesses at the end of the day. They generate much more views, much more marketing, much more interaction with the engagement of audiences for male-dominated sports, or male sports, the version of men. So obviously, I think because of that, with the navigation of all this marketing, with all the collaborations between businesses, yes, men will obviously be making more money, and I think that's well-deserved because it just unfortunately gets a lot more engagement and interaction.
Sure. Well, okay.
I don't think that it necessarily plays out into women should get less pay. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just solely saying as a business perspective, yes, absolutely, they deserve more.
When it comes to the wage gap, it's been debunked. You're welcome to look into it, but the reality is when you hear the commonly cited wage gap, women earn it's always changing, by the way, 77 cents to the dollar, 80 cents to the dollar that a man makes. That's not accounting for things like hours worked, type of job, seniority, educational, their educational background, which also, by the way, women are, for over 40 years, women have been outpacing men when it comes to getting college degrees and attending universities. So we have an entire generation of women, essentially, starting in, I think, 1979, women were going to college at higher rates than men were. So basically, women who are retiring now, for that entire period of time, there's been more women who have been going to college. What else? When it comes to the wage gap, though, what they don't take into account, I said hours worked, they don't take into account the type of jobs, overpay. Men are more likely, for example, to work overtime. Men are more likely, for example, to relocate for a job. Men are more likely to work dangerous, physically laborious, dirty, and dangerous jobs.
Completely.
For example, workplace, if we talk about gaps, right, we'd have to talk about the workplace injury gap, the workplace death gap, the workplace electrocuted to death gap.
It all goes hand in hand.
But let me ask you a question. If you had to do a dangerous job, would you want to be paid? It would probably cost a lot of money for you to be more willing to do it, right? Like a hazardous job where there's a risk of death or dismemberment or getting crushed to death. The reality is there's all kinds of wages, but see, I think the issue when it comes to feminism is women want to secure the cushy, comfortable, air-conditioned office jobs that are high-paying, but you don't want to equalize it for the dangerous and difficult and difficult and dirty jobs.
So just to make sure you were aware, like I really wasn't saying that was my position in the patriarchy or anything. I was just saying the obvious disagreements that a lot of people have in the arguments. With that being said, if you're prefacing that with the dirty jobs or the more laborious jobs, I agree. they don't account for that. A lot of these people that make this argument that I just made as a devil's advocate is, oh, well, yeah, no, the man can't take that. I don't want to work. I want to be this, whatever. And that's fine. That's somebody else's position. I think, yes, those positions do deserve a higher pay. My mother, for instance, like I shared early on, she was a welder. She did welding for 15 years. I completely believe that wage gap was not even there because she was working a laborious job. She was working all that work.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I wish more people took into account, like you said, that wage gap does obviously go hand in hand with the gaps between the harm that it is between certain occupations.